Hello everyone, this is Chador, the UFC commentator for TV and Sports in Korea. We're now joined by the Senior Vice President of UFC Asia, Kevin Chang. Hello sir, how are you?
Good.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now my first question to you is that you have been part of the UFC for quite a long time. It's my understanding that you've joined the firm back in 2011?
Yeah.
So during the past 10 plus years as someone working with the UFC Asia section, what has it been like? What are the changes or any growths that you've witnessed?
Well, I mean, it's really hard to say Asia because Asia is a collection of so many different countries.
Right.
Each country has different starting points, of course. Some are more mature than others. For instance, Korea, as a whole, has been, fans and sophisticated fans and more further along in mixed martial arts development as far as talent, as far as fandom, as far as everything, for quite a while now. But when you look at somewhere like China, I mean, when we first started, it was a relatively small and unknown sport. We had a small but very passionate base of fans, but we were starting from the beginning. You know, we're getting our broadcasts on TV, and back then it was like live streaming was just starting as well. We were cleaning up a lot of the internet, and a lot of the positioning. Right, there was a lot of things out there that were not, our authorized type of material out there, and they kind of represented the brand in the wrong way. So there's a lot of that. There was educating the media. It was exposing the sport to fans, and I think that was kind of a good way to kind of say the growth of the years is a good way to kind of set a baseline and show that, because a lot of places in Asia were like that as well back then. So we've seen a lot of great growth. I mean, these days when we talk about whatever metrics that we do fall over, whether it's viewership or social media trends or ticket sales or whatever that may be, I mean, the growth between back then and now has just been tremendous. It's been a really interesting journey.
And speaking of growth, as someone who's representing the Korean media, I have to ask your view on the Korean fight market. What do you think?
I think also it's grown a lot. Again, Korea's always had some of the toughest fighters in the world, I'd say. Right? We've had big stars from the very beginning, like Korean Zombie, for instance, like Superboy, who will be fighting this weekend. Right? So we've already had some of that traction because of those stars and because of the success that they've had in the UFC. But the fan base, I mean, they're so passionate, they're so loyal, they're so sophisticated as well, right? They know what the UFC is. They know, how we offer that international platform for the best of the best fighters to compete, and they're very tuned into what's happening in our sport just as a whole. And so, we have to make sure that we're delivering the right product to them. We have to make sure that we're serving the interests of all of our fans in Korea. And I think from a growth perspective, I mean, you see more and more young up and coming talent from Korea right now. I think that the prospects, and especially some on the card this weekend, are really, really promising. So that's going to be great. That's always something that drives fandom. Our new broadcast partner, not that new now, but with CJ and TVN, they've been tremendous, and the coverage and the reach has kind of leveled up, right? So as far as growth and as far as development, I mean, we feel like we're in a great spot right now, and probably the best we've ever been in Korea.
Right, and to add to that, it is my belief that Road to UFC, the whole series, has been a huge boost to the popularity in Korea.
Yeah, absolutely. In Korea especially, I mean, again, the Korean competitors and entrants that we had on this tournament have done very well. I mean, they quite frankly, they've been some of the top, right? And we have the most amount of them represented in this final. So we will see some new faces in the UFC soon.
Did the Road to UFC tournament meet your expectations, would you say?
Yeah, it really did. It gave a real clear pathway, right, for the talent in the region to understand, hey, if I work my butt off and I get to this point where I'm selected to be in this tournament, this is a clear pathway for me to get into the UFC. So for us, it's really encouraging from a talent perspective that a lot of the athletes, up and coming athletes in the region, are understanding this now, right, after the first season. So that's just going to continue to grow, right? We're going to get more and more competitive. I think more and more athletes are going to continue to identify that as the right next step and opportunity if they really want to take their career to the next level. And then from a fan and local relevance perspective, it's not just Korea. Korea, of course, is going to benefit because of the tremendous talent that we have this year and in future years. But you look around the region as well, and I mean the type of local relevance and engagement from the fans because they see someone of their own in the tournament and have that opportunity to get into the UFC. I mean, it's surpassed all of our expectations.
So to paraphrase, this road to UFC system, this whole thing, it's here to stay. This isn't a one-off thing.
No, it's not a one-off thing. We're already thinking about season 2 now.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And that's going to be based in Asia as well.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I hope we can discover more Korean talents.
Yeah. There's a lot out there.
Will there be more Asian UFC events this year?
Yes. That's something that we kicked off last year with UFC 275 in Singapore Indoor Stadium. I mean, it was only our second international event that we actually took on the road post-pandemic. And it was a huge success. I mean, we broke attendance records, we broke gate records for the arena. So we know that there's a demand out there that is hungry right now for us to get back. And so we're looking at this next year and planning out kind of the stops and everything else, and that'll continue to grow over time.
And right over here somewhere, there's a UFC Performance Institute, right?
Yes.
And we had the pleasure of having a tour around the facility with Forrest Griffin.
Oh, great.
And
Hall of Famer.
So impressive with all the technology and stuff.
Yeah.
We were wondering if the UFC had any intentions to branch it out more, maybe in Korea.
Well, we're taking a look right now. We have one in Shanghai, as you know, right? That is certainly designed to be a regional hub. That's designed to not just serve the Chinese athletes, but the athletes from around the region.
Oh, so Korean athletes can train at the Shanghai PI?
Yeah. I mean,
right.
as we work through sort of the opening up and everything else, things are really trending in the right direction right now. And we're also looking at a few other places. I mean, the PI and the UFC Academy are hugely important to certain countries where we need to bridge that gap. Right. We need to get these fighters the opportunity and the access to resources and everything else so that they can have a good chance of success in the octagon when they finally get to the UFC. So we do feel like it's a big priority, and so there definitely are some expansion plans in the works.
I hope it happens soon. Now I have to put you on the spot. Who is the greatest UFC fighter to come out of Asia?
Oh, that's tough. That's tough. I think it's how you define greatest. I mean, of course we have our champion Zhang Weili. She's been pivotal for our development out in China, of course. There's no denying that Zombie has brought the sport and the attention and captured kind of the hearts of all of our fans around the world with his style and the successes he had and just the overall skill level. I think there's pioneers like Li Jinliang. We have our first Asian athletes coming out of certain places like Loma Lukbanmi from Thailand, etc. So it's really hard to say who's the greatest. I think maybe when it's all said and done, we'll have a chance to evaluate that.
Right.
Yeah. But I think each one of those has their own impact and influence on our development in Asia.
That was a very politically correct answer. All right, now finally, any words to the Korean UFC fans who will be watching this interview?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of Korean talent represented on this card. I think what you'll see is a collection of young and hungry guys that are right there. I mean, they're right at the line, and having success in this event and in the future events for the rest of 2023 will set up some monumental fights. I think. Really, we look to have them all kind of get and move up in the rankings and eventually become top competitors in the UFC. And I think the styles that they bring right now, and this is always something I've talked to the matchmakers and everything else, just about how tough the Korean athletes are, how much heart they have, how they bring it every time. They are not boring fighters whatsoever, you know what I mean? And that's something that I think, again, appeals on a global basis. So with a couple of wins and a couple of performances like that, hey, you're right in the conversation. And so, you know, wish everybody luck this weekend. And to the fans out there, you know, stay tuned. I think it's going to be a great show.
Wow. Now, as a Korean fight fan, I hope the UFC and the sport itself keeps growing and gains more popularity. So thank you so much for your hard work.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Kevin Chang.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.